The Great Hall of Nexus Prime was the largest room ever built in space. Its walls were made of living crystal that glowed with soft blue light. Thousands of seats rose in circles around a central platform, and today every seat was filled. Representatives from 100 worlds had come to watch. They all knew something important was about to happen. Ambassador stood alone on the central platform. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes, but her back was straight and her voice was steady. She had spent 30 years speaking for Earth in this chamber. She had fought for every trade agreement, every colony permit, every small victory that humanity had won. Now she was fighting for survival. Honored members of the Galactic Accord Council, she began, I stand before you to remind you of what humanity has given to this alliance. Above her, the 5 elder races watched from their high seats. The Variks were insect-like creatures with hard shells and many eyes. They were beings of living crystal, beautiful and cold. They floated in tanks of water, their fish-like bodies covered in glowing spots. They had feathers and wings folded against their backs. There were clouds of colored gas contained in special chambers. These 5 races had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had built the council. They made the laws. And now they would decide if humanity deserved to exist among the stars. Continued her speech. She talked about the human doctors who had cured the plague. She talked about the human soldiers who had died protecting colonies during the Fringe Wars. She talked about 63 years of loyalty, of following every rule, of proving again and again that humans could be trusted. But she could see it in their eyes. The decision had already been made. High Speaker of the Variks rose from his seat. His shell was black as night, and his voice clicked and scraped like metal on stone. Ambassador, we thank you for your words, but words cannot change what humanity is. Felt her heart grow cold. And what are we, High Speaker? You are dangerous, said. In 63 years, your population has grown by 300%. Your ships have become faster. Your weapons have become stronger. You adapt too quickly. You change too much. The Council has watched species like yours before. They always become conquerors. We have conquered nothing, said. We have attacked no one. Not yet, replied. But you will. It is in your nature. The Council must protect the galaxy from what you will become. He called for the vote. The Variks voted yes to expulsion. They voted yes. They voted yes. They voted yes. Only the abstained, their feathered representative looking down at with something like sadness in her golden eyes. 4-0, humanity was expelled. High Speaker read the terms. Humanity had 1 standard year to leave all council space. Their colonies beyond the human corridor would be given to other species. Their technology would be inspected and restricted. Their ships would be tracked. Any human found in council space after the deadline would be arrested or destroyed. Listen to every word. She did not cry, she did not beg. When finished, she simply nodded. I understand, she said. May I say one last thing? Waved one of his many arms. Speak. Looked up at the 5 elder races. She looked at the 1,000 representatives watching from their seats. She thought about Earth, so far away, and the 8 billion people waiting to hear what had happened. You have made a mistake, she said quietly. Not because we will seek revenge. That is not who we are. Your mistake is simpler than that. For 63 years we followed your rules. We did everything you asked. We believed that if we worked hard enough and proved ourselves enough, you would accept us as equals. She paused. Now we know that was never going to happen. Now we know that we were never going to be good enough for you. And that knowledge will change us in ways you cannot imagine. She turned and walked out of the great hall. No one tried to stop her. 3 hours later, Admiral Park received the news aboard the flagship Sol Rising. He was an old man now, with white hair and deep lines on his face. He had served in the fleet for 40 years. He had fought pirates and protected colonies, and always believed that humanity had a future among the stars. He read the message 3 times. Then he called his senior officers to the command room. Captain was the first to arrive. She was young, only 32, but she had already earned a reputation as one of the best tactical minds in the fleet. She saw the look on the Admiral's face and knew something was very wrong. "Sir," she asked. "We've been expelled," Park said. "The Council voted 4-0. We have 1 year to leave." The other officers arrived. Park told them everything. He watched their faces change from confusion to anger to despair. Some of them had spent their whole lives building humanity's place in the galaxy. Now it was all being taken away. "What do we do, Admiral?" one of them asked. Park was quiet for a long moment. He looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Council thought they had solved the human problem. They thought they had put humanity in its place. They were wrong. "We have 1 year," he said finally. 1 year to prepare, 1 year to build, 1 year to become something they never expected. He turned to face his officers. "They expelled us because they were afraid of what we might become. Let us show them that their fear was justified." Captain felt something stir in her chest. It was not anger, though she was angry. It was not despair, though part of her wanted to despair. It was something else, something stronger. It was determination. "What are your orders, Admiral?" she asked. Park smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had just been told the rules no longer applied to him. "Start with the obvious," he said. "Begin the evacuation. Follow their orders. Let them think we have accepted our fate." His eyes grew hard. "And then we begin the real work. Contact Earth. Contact every human colony. Tell them what happened today. Tell them we have 1 year to change everything." The officers nodded and left to carry out their orders. Soon, only Captain remained. "Sir," she said, "do you really think we can do this? The Council has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They have technology we cannot match. They have fleets we cannot defeat. How can we possibly change anything?" Admiral Park looked at her with eyes that held no doubt. "Captain, the Council just made the biggest mistake in their history. They thought expelling us would make us weaker. They thought taking away our place at the table would break us." He shook his head. "They forgot something important about humans. We do not break. We adapt. We overcome. We find a way." He walked to the window and placed his hand on the cold glass. "For 63 years we played by their rules. We held ourselves back because we wanted to belong. We limited our growth because we wanted to be accepted. And what did it get us? Nothing. They were never going to accept us. They were always going to fear us." He turned back to, "So now we stop asking for permission. Now we stop limiting ourselves. Now we show them what humanity can really do when we have nothing left to lose." Captain stood at attention. "Yes, sir, I understand." "Good," Admiral Park said, "because in 1 year the galaxy is going to look very different, and I want you there when it happens." Far away on Nexus Prime, High Speaker celebrated his victory. The human problem was solved. The galaxy was safe. He had no idea how wrong he was. The first month after the expulsion was chaos. Ships filled with refugees left Council space every day. Families packed everything they owned into cargo containers. Children cried as they left behind the only homes they had ever known. The news channels across the galaxy showed images of humans running away, and the other species watched with satisfaction. The dangerous creatures were finally leaving. But behind the chaos, something else was happening, something quiet, something secret. Doctor had not slept in 3 days. She stood in her laboratory at the Deep Space Research Institute, staring at equations that floated in the air before her. Around her, 50 of the scientists on Earth worked without rest. They had been given one order from the government: find a way to make human ships faster than anything in the galaxy. "It is impossible," said one of the younger scientists. "The phase shift technology took them 2,000 years to develop. We cannot match it in 1 year." Doctor pushed her gray hair out of her face and smiled. "You are right. We cannot match it." She tapped the floating equations, and they rearranged themselves into a new pattern, so we will surpass it instead. The scientists stared at her like she was crazy. Maybe she was, but had spent her whole life being told what humans could not do. She had been told humans could not travel faster than light. They did it anyway. She had been told humans could not colonize other worlds. They did it anyway. Now she was being told humans could not build better ships than the elder races. She would prove them wrong again. In another part of the solar system, Director Shin sat in a dark room lit only by screens. He was the head of Earth's intelligence division, and he had been preparing for this moment for 20 years. Ever since he had first studied the Council's history, he had known this day would come. The Council had expelled 17 species before humans. All 17 had either died or been absorbed into the territories of the elder races. The Council was very good at crushing those who fell out of their favor. But Shin had prepared. He had placed agents on every major world. He had hidden listening devices in Council meeting rooms. He had built a network of informants that stretched across the galaxy. Now he activated all of them. "Begin Operation Whisper," he said into his communicator. Across the galaxy, human agents who had lived secret lives for decades started sending information back to Earth. Military positions, technology blueprints, political secrets, economic data. Every piece of information that the Council thought was hidden began flowing to the Deep Space Research Institute. Engineer O was only 24 years old. She had graduated at the top of her class and had been recruited straight into the most secret project in human history. Now she sat in a workshop hidden inside an asteroid, surrounded by machines that could destroy a planet if used wrong. Her job was simple to describe but nearly impossible to do. Human ships had always been slower than Council ships because they could not generate enough power. They used quantum reactors that bent the laws of physics. They used crystal energy cores that had taken them 1,000,000 years to perfect. Humans had nothing that could compete. Until had an idea. "What if we used gravity itself?" she asked her supervisor one day. Her supervisor laughed. "You mean create artificial black holes? That is fantasy. The energy required would destroy any ship that tried it." "Not a black hole," said. "A micro-singularity. Something so small it could fit in your hand, but so dense it could power a ship for 1,000 years." Her supervisor stopped laughing. "That is theoretically possible, but the containment field would need to be perfect. One mistake in the singularity would eat the ship from the inside." Smiled. "Then we better not make any mistakes." She worked for 6 months without rest. She failed 100 times. Each failure taught her something new. Each mistake brought her closer to success. And finally, on a quiet night when the stars seemed brighter than usual, she succeeded. The first micro-singularity reactor hummed to life in her workshop. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. A point of absolute darkness surrounded by a shell of golden light. It produced more power than anything humanity had ever built. "We did it," whispered. Then she laughed and cried at the same time. "We actually did it." Captain had been reassigned to a classified location. She had traveled to the asteroid belt, to a place that did not exist on any map. When she arrived, she understood why. Hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid was the largest shipyard in human history. Thousands of workers moved through tunnels and chambers, building something that made her heart stop. Ships, but not like any ships she had ever seen. The new human vessels were sleek and beautiful, their hulls made of a black material that seemed to absorb light. They were larger than anything humanity had built before, but they moved with a grace that suggested impossible speed. Each one carried weapons that the Council had never seen and could not imagine. "These are the new fleet ships," said the shipyard commander, a woman named Sara. "The first generation of human vessels built without Council restrictions." Walked through the shipyard in a daze. For 63 years, Humans had built their ships according to Council specifications. They had limited their weapons to approved types. They had restricted their engines to approved speeds. They had followed every rule because they wanted to be accepted. Now there were no rules. How many? Asked. By the end of the year, we will have 300 capital ships and 2,000 support vessels, Sora said. And that is just the beginning. Ambassador had officially retired. The news channels reported that she had returned to Earth to live quietly. The Council was pleased. The human diplomat who had challenged them was gone. But was not on Earth. She was on a small transport ship, traveling through dangerous space to the... They were the only race that had not voted against humanity. They had abstained, which in Council politics was almost like voting no. Knew there was a reason for that abstention. She needed to find out what it was. She landed on their planet at night. The cities were built in the trees, glowing platforms connected by bridges of light. It was beautiful in a way that made her heart ache. Humans had never been allowed to visit this place before. Elder met her in a private chamber. It was old, her feathers faded from gold to silver, but her eyes were sharp and curious. "You should not be here," Ambassador said. "If the Council learns you have come." "They will not learn," said, "and I am no longer an ambassador. I am just a human with a question." "Ask it." "Why did you not vote against us?" Was quiet for a long time. She looked out the window at the stars. "My people are old," she finally said. "We have seen many species rise and fall. We have watched the Council expel those who threatened them, and we have always wondered, what if they expelled the wrong one?" "The wrong one." "The Council fears humanity because you are different. You adapt, you change, you grow. The elder races have not changed in 10,000 years. We are the same as we have always been. But you turn to face. You are something new, and new things can be dangerous, but they can also be wonderful." Felt tears in her eyes. "Will you help us?" Shook her head sadly. "I cannot help you openly. They are not strong enough to stand against the Council, but I will not stand against you either. And when the time comes, when you show the galaxy what you can become, I will be watching." The year passed quickly. The evacuation continued. The Council watched and waited, expecting humanity to fade into the darkness of space, to become another forgotten species, another cautionary tale. They did not see the ships being built in secret. They did not see the scientists working through the night. They did not see the agents gathering information. They did not see the preparations for a future they could not imagine. On the last day of the year, Admiral Park stood on the bridge of a new ship. It was called the Dawn Rising, and it was the most advanced vessel ever created by human hands. Around it, hundreds of other ships waited in the darkness between stars, their engines silent, their weapons ready. "The deadline has passed," said Captain, now promoted to Fleet Commander. "We are officially no longer part of the Council." Park smiled. "Good, then we no longer have to follow their rules." He looked out at the stars. "Send the signal, tell everyone to prepare. The quiet year is over." Across human space, lights began to glow in the darkness. Ships powered up their new engines. Scientists finalized their new technologies. Soldiers prepared for a future they had never imagined. The galaxy thought humanity was finished. The galaxy was about to learn how wrong it was. 2 years had passed since the expulsion. The Council had almost forgotten about humanity. The humans were confined to their small corner of space, cut off from trade and technology, slowly fatting away. At least, that is what the Council believed. Captain of the Crystal Fleet was having a very bad day. His convoy of trading ships had been attacked by pirates in neutral space, far from any help. His weapons were damaged. His shields were failing. His crew was preparing to die. "Send a distress signal," he ordered, knowing it would take hours for anyone to receive it and days for anyone to arrive. Then something impossible happened. 3 ships appeared out of nowhere. not from faster-than-light travel, which left visible trails of light, not from normal space, because there had been no ships within scanning range. They simply appeared as if they had stepped through an invisible door. The ships were black as night, their hulls absorbing all light. They were unlike anything had ever seen. No council species built ships like that. No known civilization had technology like that. The pirates saw the new ships and panicked. They tried to run. They did not get far. The black ships fired weapons that could not identify. There was no flash of energy, no trail of missiles. The pirate vessels simply stopped working. Their engines died. Their weapons went silent. They hung motionless in space, completely disabled but completely undamaged. A voice came through's communicator. "Convoy, this is Fleet Commander of the Human First Fleet. Do you require assistance?" Could not believe what he was hearing. Humans. These were human ships. That was impossible. Human technology was generations behind council ships. Human vessels could not move this fast, could not fight this well, could not appear from nothing. "Yes," he managed to say, we require assistance." The human ships moved closer. A shuttle detached from the lead vessel and docked with its damaged ship. When the airlock opened, a human woman stepped through. She was middle-aged, with short black hair and calm eyes. She wore a uniform that did not recognize. "I am Fleet Commander," she said. "My engineers will help repair your ships. We will escort you to the nearest safe port." Stared at her. "Why, our people voted to expel your species. We are your enemies." Commander smiled. It was not a cruel smile or a triumphant smile. It was simply kind. "You are merchants who were attacked by pirates," she said. "That makes you victims who need help. We do not choose who we help based on politics." The repairs took 3 hours. The human engineers worked efficiently and asked for nothing in return. When they were finished, the black ships escorted the convoy to safety, then disappeared as mysteriously as they had arrived. Sent a message to the council immediately. He described everything he had seen. The impossible ships, the unknown weapons, the humans who had appeared from nowhere and asked for nothing. The message spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Over the next few months, more reports came in. Human ships were appearing everywhere, far beyond the boundaries they were supposed to be confined to. They were faster than anything the Council had ever seen. They were helping anyone who needed help, regardless of species or politics. A research station was caught in an asteroid field. Human ships protected them until they could be evacuated. A colony was hit by a disease. Human doctors arrived with a cure that worked in hours instead of weeks, and transport was stranded with failing life support. Human engineers saved everyone aboard. And always, the humans asked for nothing in return. The Council did not know what to do. High Speaker called emergency meeting after emergency meeting. How had the humans developed such technology? How had they built such ships? How had they become so powerful in just 2 years? Finally, the Council demanded an explanation. They sent a message to Earth, expecting excuses or apologies or maybe silence. Instead, they received a request. President wanted to address the galaxy. She was a small woman with silver hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. She had been elected 1 year after the expulsion, chosen by the people of Earth to lead them through the greatest crisis in human history. Now, she stood in a broadcasting studio, facing cameras that would send her image to 1 trillion viewers across 1,000 worlds. "People of the galaxy," she began, "2 years ago, the Council expelled humanity from the galactic community. They called us dangerous. They called us unpredictable. They said we would become conquerors if given the chance." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "They were right to think we were dangerous. They were right to think we could change the galaxy, but they were wrong about how we would do it." Images appeared behind her. The new human ships, the advanced technology, the rescue missions across the galaxy. "In the 2 years since our expulsion, humanity has not been dying. We have been growing. We have developed faster-than-light travel that makes Council ships look like sailing boats. We have built energy systems that could power civilizations. We have created medical technology that could extend any species by centuries. The Council members watching this broadcast felt their blood run cold. How was this possible? But we are not here to threaten you, President continued. We are not here to conquer or destroy. We have already proven that through our actions. We have helped your ships. We have saved your people. We have asked for nothing. She took a deep breath. The Council expelled us because they feared what we might become. They were right to fear our potential, but they were wrong about what we would use it for. She smiled slightly. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We do not want to destroy the Council. We want something much simpler. She leaned forward. We want to be treated as equals. We want a seat at the table, not as junior members who must beg for scraps, but as partners who help build the future. We want a galaxy where species are judged by their actions, not their biology. We want a galaxy where new voices are welcomed, not silenced. She straightened. Our technology is not for sale. It is not for trade. It is not a weapon to threaten you with. It is simply ours, and we are offering to share it freely with anyone who is willing to work with us as equals. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, billions of beings sat in stunned silence. High Speaker felt something he had not felt in centuries. Fear, true, deep fear. He had expelled humanity to protect the Council's power. He had believed that humans would fade away, become nothing, disappear into history like all the other species the Council had crushed. Instead, he had created a monster. No, not a monster, something worse. He had created a competitor. The humans were not trying to destroy the Council. They were not trying to conquer anyone. They were doing something far more dangerous. They were offering an alternative, a different way to organize the galaxy, a system based on equality instead of hierarchy. If other species started to believe in that alternative, called for an emergency military session, the Council would not allow this to continue. The humans had to be stopped, by force if necessary. But even as he made his plans, he felt doubt creeping into his mind. The human ships were faster than anything the Council had. The human weapons were unknown and terrifying. The human technology was generations beyond what the elder races possessed. Could the Council even win a war against humanity now? Far away, on the flagship Dawn Rising, Fleet Commander watched the Council's response take shape. Intelligence reports showed military movements, secret communications, plans for attack. They are going to try to destroy us, she said to Admiral Park, who had come aboard for this critical moment. The old admiral nodded. Of course they are. We expected this. The Council cannot allow an alternative to exist. They have to try to crush us. And when they fail, Park smiled. When they fail, the galaxy will see that the Council is not as powerful as everyone believed. They will see that there is another option. And then, he looked out at the stars. Then everything changes. Felt the weight of what they were about to do. Millions of lives hung in the balance. The future of the galaxy would be decided by what happened next. Are we ready? She asked. We have been ready for 2 years, Park replied. Now it is time to show the galaxy what humanity has become. He gave the order to prepare for battle. Across human space, ships powered up their weapons and moved into defensive positions. The first shot of a new era was about to be fired, and humanity was ready. 5 years had passed since humanity's return. The galaxy had changed more in those 5 years than in the previous 1,000. The old Council was breaking apart. High Speaker had tried to destroy humanity. He had failed in the most spectacular way possible. The attack had come at dawn on a human colony world called New. 200 Varix warships had appeared in orbit, their weapons charged and ready. They expected an easy victory. Human ships were supposed to be weak. Human defenses were supposed to be primitive. They were wrong. Admiral Park had been waiting for them. His fleet was smaller, only 50 ships, but they were the new ships, the impossible ships, the ships that moved like thoughts and hit like thunder. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it was over, not a single Varric soldier had died. Not because they had won, but because the human weapons did not kill. They disabled. They paralyzed. They took away the ability to fight without taking away the ability to live. 200 warships hung motionless in space, their crews alive but helpless. Admiral Park sent them all home with a message. "We could have killed you. We chose not to. Tell your leaders that humanity does not want war, but if war is forced upon us, we will end it our way." The Varric's fleet returned home in shame. High Speaker demanded another attack, but his generals refused. They had seen what human weapons could do. They knew they could not win. The council began to fracture. The Varrics still wanted to fight, but they and their support. Why should they die for a war they could not win? Why should they sacrifice their people to protect the pride of the Varrics? And they did something no one expected. They left the council entirely and asked for alliance with humanity. Ambassador returned to service to negotiate the treaty. She met Elder on a human station called Gateway, a massive structure built in neutral space where any species could come in peace. "5 years ago you told me you could not help us," said. "Now you want to be our ally. What changed?" Feathers rustled with emotion. "I watched your battle with the Varrics. I saw your weapons. I saw your power. And I saw something I never expected to see." "What?" Mercy's golden eyes were wet with tears. "You could have killed them all. Any other species would have. The council would have. But you chose to let them live. You chose to show them that there is another way." She bowed her head. "That is why I am here. Not because you are powerful, but because you are good." Felt her own eyes fill with tears. 63 years ago, she had been a young diplomat, full of hope that humanity could find a place among the stars. That hope had been crushed by the council's rejection. Now, against all odds, it was being reborn. "They are welcome among us," she said, "as equals, as partners, as friends." The treaty was signed the next day. For the first time in galactic history, 2 species had formed an alliance based not on conquest or trade, but on shared values and mutual respect. Word spread across the galaxy. Other species began to question the council. If they could leave and join the humans, why could they not do the same? If there was an alternative to the council's rule, why should they continue to obey? Humanity responded by building more stations like Gateway. They called them open stations, and they were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Any species could come to an open station without permission. Any species could live there, trade there, learn there. Human doctors treated anyone who was sick. Human teachers educated anyone who wanted to learn. Human engineers shared their knowledge freely. The council called it propaganda. They called it a trick. They warned other species that the humans were just waiting to conquer them. But action spoke louder than words. Year after year, humanity helped without asking for anything in return. Year after year, the open stations grew more popular. Year after year, more species began to wonder if the humans were right. Admiral Park retired from active service. He was old now, his body tired from decades of fighting. But his mind was still sharp, and his wisdom was still valued. He became an advisor to the new Galactic Cooperative, the alliance of species that was forming around humanity. One day, a young officer came to visit him. The officer's name was, and he had been on one of the ships that had commanded years ago, the convoy that had saved from pirates. "I need to understand," said. "My people voted to expel you. My people tried to destroy you. Why do you not hate us?" Park poured tea for both of them, a human custom he had always loved. "Do you hate the child who is afraid of the dark?" Was confused. "No, of course not." "Then why would we hate species who are afraid of change?" Park sipped his tea. The council feared us because we were different. They expelled us because they could not control us. But fear and hatred are choices. We could have chosen to hate them back. We could have chosen revenge. But you did not. No, Park smiled. We chose to prove them wrong instead. We chose to show them that different does not have to mean dangerous. We chose to build instead of destroy. He set down his cup. That is the human way. Not because we are better than other species, but because we learned the hard way what happens when you choose hatred. Our history is full of wars and suffering caused by that choice. We decided not to repeat those mistakes. Was silent for a long moment. Then he bowed his head. I want to join the cooperative, he said. I want to learn your way. Then you are welcome, Park said. That is all it takes, the willingness to learn. The years passed. The cooperative grew. The joined, then the. Even some Variks, tired of their leader's endless hatred, found their way to the open stations. Only the Variks government and the Crystal Lords held out. They still believed in the old ways. They still believed that power came from control and fear. They still believed that the council would rise again. But the council was dying. Its power was based on monopoly, on being the only option for species who wanted to travel the stars. Now there was another option, a better option, an option that treated everyone as equals. Fleet Commander, now director of the Cooperative Security Force, watched the galaxy transform from her office on Unity Station. The station had been built in orbit around no planet, belonging to no single species. It was a symbol of what the cooperative believed in. We did it, she said to herself sometimes, still not quite believing it. We actually did it. She thought about the young captain she had been, standing on the bridge of the Soul Rising when the expulsion was announced. She remembered the anger and the fear and the determination. She remembered Admiral Park's words. They thought expelling us would make us weaker. They forgot something important about humans. We do not break. We adapt. We overcome. We find a way. He had been right. They had found a way. Ambassador arrived at her office, looking tired but happy. She had just returned from negotiations with yet another species that wanted to join the cooperative. How many is that now? Asked. 12 species in the cooperative, 8 more in negotiations. The council is down to just the Variks and even they are losing support. Sat down heavily. We won, we actually won. Did we? Looked out the window at the stars. Or did we just stop losing? Laughed. That is very philosophical for a military officer. I had a good teacher. Smiled, thinking of Admiral Park. He taught me that victory is not about defeating your enemies. It is about building something better than what came before. And have we done that? Thought about the open stations. She thought about the species that had once feared humanity now working alongside them. She thought about the children of different worlds playing together, learning together, growing together. Yes, she said finally. I think we have, but we are not finished yet. The galaxy is still changing. There is still work to do. Nodded. There is always work to do. That is what it means to be alive. She stood and looked out at the same stars was watching. The council expelled us because they feared what we would become. They were right to fear our potential, but they were wrong about everything else. She smiled. We did not become conquerors. We became builders, and the galaxy will never be the same. Outside, ships from a dozen different species moved through the darkness, working together, building together, dreaming together. The new order had arrived, and it was just getting started. 20 years had passed since humanity was expelled from the Galactic Accord Council. The Council no longer existed. In its place stood something new, something better, something that would have seemed impossible when Ambassador walked out of that great hall on Nexus Prime. Unity Station hung in the darkness between stars, a monument to everything humanity had built. It was massive, larger than any structure in galactic history, but it was not intimidating. Its curves were gentle. Its lights were warm. Its doors were open to anyone who came in peace. Director stood at the podium in the Grand Assembly Hall. Her hair was gray now, and there were lines on her face that had not been there 20 years ago. But her eyes were still sharp, and her voice was still strong. Before her sat the representatives of 18 different species, humans and Variks, beings of flesh and crystal and water and gas, beings who had once been enemies, now sitting together as equals. 20 years ago, humanity was told that we did not belong in the galaxy. We were told that we were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too different. We were told that the stars were not for us. She looked around the hall at the faces watching her. So many species, so many histories, so many futures intertwined. Today, we are here to announce the largest joint mission in galactic history. Ships from every cooperative species will travel together beyond the galactic rim to explore the unknown, to seek out new life, to find new wonders. The hall erupted in applause. Representatives from species that had fought wars against each other for thousands of years now cheered together. It was beautiful in a way that made its heart ache. Young Delegate Shin stepped forward to present the details of the mission. He was the grandson of Director Shin, who had coordinated the intelligence operations during the Quiet Year. Had passed away 5 years ago, but his legacy lived on in this young man who believed in the future. The expedition will launch in 6 months, said. Crews from all 18 species will work together on ships built with technology from every civilization. We will go further than anyone has ever gone before, and we will go together. After the ceremony, retired Admiral Park sat in a garden on Earth. He was very old now, past 90, his body weak but his spirit still bright. He watched children play on the grass before him. Human children chased children around the trees. A young, crystalline and beautiful, was learning to walk on the soft ground with help from a human girl. A young journalist sat beside him, recording everything he said for a documentary about the transformation of the galaxy. Admiral, she asked, 20 years ago the galaxy cast humanity out. Now we lead a coalition of 18 species. How did it happen? Park smiled, his old eyes twinkling with memory. They thought they were punishing us by taking away the rules we had to follow. They did not understand that we had been playing by those rules, hopping to belong. When they told us we never would belong, we stopped asking for permission. Permission for what? Permission to be ourselves. He watched the children playing. For 63 years we limited ourselves. We held back our growth, our technology, our potential. We did it because we wanted to be accepted. We wanted the council to see us as equals. He shook his head slowly. But they were never going to accept us. Not because there was anything wrong with us, but because accepting us would have meant admitting that their way was not the only way. It would have meant sharing power, and they were not ready for that. So what changed? We did, Park pointed at the children. Look at them. Human, playing together, learning together. They do not see enemies or rivals. They see friends. That is what we built. Not a new empire, not a new hierarchy, a new way of seeing each other. The journalist was quiet for a moment. Some historians say humanity conquered the galaxy through superior technology and military power. What do you say to them? Park laughed. We had the technology to conquer. We had the ships and the weapons. We could have destroyed the council and taken everything for ourselves. His smile faded into something more serious. But conquest is easy. Any species can conquer. The council itself was built on conquest. The elder races ruled because they had the power to rule. And humanity is different. Humanity chose to be different. We had all the power we needed to take revenge. Instead, we used that power to help. We used it to heal. We used it to build something that was open to everyone, even our enemies. He looked at the journalist with clear, steady eyes. That is the human gift to the galaxy. Not our technology, not our ships, just the simple belief that tomorrow can be better than today if we choose to make it so. On Unity Station, the final session of the cooperative assembly was coming to a close. Director prepared to give the closing address. She thought about everything that had happened: the expulsion, the quiet year, the revelation, the building of the cooperative, 20 years of work, of struggle, of hope. She thought about the people who had made it possible: Admiral Park, who had seen the opportunity in their darkest hour; Ambassador, who had never stopped believing in diplomacy; Doctor and Engineer O, who had created the technology that changed everything; Director Shin, who had gathered the information they needed; and thousands of others, humans and aliens alike, who had chosen to build instead of destroy. She stepped to the podium and looked out at the assembled delegates. The old galaxy was built on hierarchy, she said. Who was oldest? Who was strongest? Who arrived first? Those things determined who had power and who did not. Species were ranked from highest to lowest, and those at the bottom were expected to know their place. She paused. Humanity was expelled because we threatened that order, not through violence or conquest, but simply by existing. We grew too fast. We adapted too well. We refused to stay in the place that was assigned to us. The council saw that as dangerous, and in a way, they were right. She looked at each delegation in turn: the who had been the first to join them, the and who had followed soon after, the and even the Variks who had eventually realized that the old way was dying. We built something different, not a new empire with humanity at the top instead of the elder races. That would have just repeated the same mistakes. Instead, we built a system where every species is equal, where every voice matters, where new civilizations are welcomed, not feared. She smiled. In the past 20 years, we have discovered 12 new spacefaring species. Under the old council, they would have been tested and judged and probably rejected. They would have been told to stay in their small corners of space and wait for permission to grow. Under the cooperative, they were welcomed as equals from their first day among us. She took a deep breath. That is the human gift to the galaxy, not our technology, not our ships, just the simple belief that every species has value, that every civilization has something to offer, that the future is something we build together, not something that is given to us by those who happen to arrive first. She looked up at the great dome of the hall, through which the stars were visible, countless points of light stretching to infinity. 20 years ago, the Council tried to end humanity's story. Instead, they started a new chapter for the entire galaxy. A chapter where we are all authors, not just readers. A chapter where the rules can be changed, and changed for the better. She raised her hand in a gesture of unity. To the stars, together. The hall erupted in applause. Delegates from 18 species rose to their feet, cheering and crying and embracing each other. For this moment at least, the dream was real. The galaxy was one. Later, when the ceremonies were over and the delegates had returned to their ships, Director walked alone through the quiet corridors of Unity Station. She found herself at a window, looking out at the galaxy that humanity had transformed. She thought about Nexus Prime, where it had all begun. The Great Hall was still there, she knew, but it was empty now, abandoned by the council that no longer existed. Sometimes she imagined visiting it, standing on the platform where Ambassador had stood, looking up at the seats where the elder races had pronounced their judgment. But she never went. That place belonged to the past. Her place was here, in the future that humanity had built. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. She checked her communicator and smiled. It was a video from Earth, from the garden where Admiral Park lived. He was surrounded by children of 5 different species, and they were all laughing at something one of the children had said. Below the video was a message: "Look what you built." Felt tears in her eyes, happy tears, grateful tears. The galaxy had kicked humanity out, and humanity had responded by changing everything. She looked out at the stars one last time, then turned and walked back toward the light. There was still work to do. There was always work to do. But for the first time in her life, she was certain that the future would be better than the past. And that certainty was the greatest victory of all.